Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is such a pleasure to be here with each and every one of you today. We are less than 1 month away from the election. 1 month until we make history. I was born in Uganda, in East Africa. I came to this city when I was 7 years old. And I know that the brothers and sisters that are here today are like New Yorkers from across the 5 boroughs. Came to this city with a dream of what life would be like. But it is very difficult to remember that dream in the most expensive city in the United States of America. It is very difficult to remember that dream in the 3rd most expensive city in the world. Because the time that you would spend on that dream is time that you now spend worrying if you have enough money for your rent, for your childcare, for your groceries, maybe even for your metro card. And I think about the words of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who instructed us to make things easier, do not make them more difficult, who told us to spread glad tidings. And so we launched this campaign more than 7 months ago with that same dream, to fulfill those words, to make life that little bit easier in this city. And we said on October 23rd that we would freeze the rent, that we would make buses fast and free, that we would deliver universal childcare. And on that day, there was a member of the New York Post editorial board. A friend of mine took a photo and he shared it on social media. Alhamdulillah, the first Muslim elected official running for mayor. And this member of the editorial board responded, he said, "Is it true they didn't allow pagers at the event?" And he was referring to when Israel blew up thousands of pagers across Lebanon, killing scores of Lebanese civilians, including a 9-year-old girl named Fatima, who lost her life as she picked up a pager that was her father's. She lost her life in an act of love. And I tell you this story because we know that to be Muslim in public life in this city and in this country, it means having people, even journalists, slander you as a terrorist. It means with just 1 month to go, I was at a rally this weekend, and I just started to speak, and someone started shouting at me, "We don't want Sharia law. We don't want Sharia law." And what I told that person is that this is what it means to be the first Muslim elected official to run for mayor. These are the kinds of questions you have to deal with. But ultimately, the question that New Yorkers want to know is who will stand up for the Constitution in this city? Who will stand up for the laws of New York City? Who will actually stand up for New Yorkers? Because what we know is that right now, as New Yorkers struggle to afford the cost of living crisis, we are also under attack from Donald Trump and his administration, who is looking to detain New Yorkers, even if there is no crime that's actually been committed. And I share this with you as just 1 week ago, one of those New Yorkers, Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian New Yorker who is still locked up in an ICE detention facility in Louisiana, was able to hold his newborn baby for the first time because he has been separated from his wife, from his family, from that son since March. And I say all of these things because we know that our community wants what every other community wants: equality and respect. But in this country, you are not given those things. You have to win those things. And so to be here with you with 29 days until the election is to remind everyone that our opportunity to win that equality, to win that respect, is an opportunity that is now less than 1 month away. And what we have is a chance to show this city that Muslims don't just belong in these 5 boroughs. We also belong in City Hall. Small businesses are the heart of our city. And for many immigrants, they are the dream for how we build a life in this city. A majority of all businesses in New York City are small businesses, and they employ close to 90% of all workers employed in the private sector. but many of those businesses are being suffocated by city fines and city fees. I'll give you an example. The city will charge a small business $100 a year just for the right to have a refrigerator. City will charge a small business $20 a year for the right to sell a frozen dessert. This is not real money to the city of New York. The city has a $115 billion budget. But for a small business that is just beginning, this is the kind of fine and fee that can make it impossible to sustain that business. So we have made a commitment to cut fines and fees in this city in half, to cut them by 50% for every small business. And one other portion I'll make. Is anyone here a small business owner? If you can raise your hand. We have a few. Now, many small businesses will also tell you that the difficulty is not just in the fines and in the fees. The difficulty is also in the bureaucracy that small businesses have to navigate. Just like our aunties and uncles are navigating the seats here, small businesses have to navigate all of these different rules and regulations. Now, what the city can do to make it easier is to have caseworkers that work one-to-one with those small businesses. Today, we have caseworkers in something called the BEST team, Business Enterprise Support Team. Only 3% of small businesses are working with that team. We are going to invest $20 million so that every small business knows about this team and can actually seek assistance from this team. The last thing I'll tell you, thank you, Rose. The last thing I'll tell you, if you want to open a barbershop in New York City, you have to go fill out 24 forms, go to 7 agencies, and then attend 12 different activities. That is not making it easy to open a barbershop. We need to start to make it easier to build these small businesses, to sustain these small businesses, and as the next mayor of the city, I will do that.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much. I am very glad that you are actually saying some, you really address some issues for the small business, and that's why I know you have also planned for, cheap grocery everywhere. So not only the business owners, but Joran is also taking care of the people who will buy the foods. So that cheap grocery accessible to all the people. So my next question, I know there is not much time. So do you believe that you can win the race? Everyone say that, but why and how actually can win?
Thank you. Let me ask, who has voted before? You can raise your hand if you voted before. Many people here. Who will be voting for the first time? Is there anyone here that will be voting for the first time? We have a few. Let's have a round of applause for our new voters. I asked this question because we are building a new coalition in New York City. The energy, the excitement, the momentum of this campaign, it's the reason why when we began in October, we were polling at 1%. And tomorrow morning, we will announce that we are polling at 27%. 6 weeks ago, Andrew Cuomo was winning the final round by 40 points. 2 weeks ago, we cut that in half to 20 points. Tomorrow, we will announce that we are cutting it down to 12 points. So tomorrow will mark 4 weeks. 4 weeks to catch up 12 points. We know we can do it. We know we can do it, and that's why I believe we can win, is because we can already see the finish line.
And Majumdar bhai হচ্ছে হাতটা তুলেছিলেন, আপনি প্রথম প্রশ্নটা।
Thank you. So you announced that you will do the rent freezing for the rent regulated buildings, which is a very good news for the rank and file for the people. But my question is how you will make up that gap, the employee, union, utility bill, janitorial worker, everybody will ask raise from you. How are you going to pay?
So, very good question. The question is about, and brother, you can always correct me here. The rent freeze is something that will benefit rank and file tenants. How will we pay for that rent freeze? For the cost of sustaining the buildings and employees that come with it. So there are a few things. The first thing is that we have found the Rent Guidelines Board. This is the board that determines the rent increases every year. It's made up of 9 members. The mayor appoints every single one of those 9 members. They did a study this year that found that profits for landlords of rent-stabilized buildings went up by 12%. The median household income of those tenants is about $60,000. So the argument here is that there is room between the profits and the costs and the need of those tenants to freeze that rent. But now there are some landlords who that is not a picture of their finances. That is an average picture. Maybe it doesn't apply to them specifically. There are a few things I will say. The first is there's a program, a hardship program, that a landlord can apply to if their income and their costs are not meeting in a way that is sustainable. That can provide subsidy to that landlord. The second is when you ask landlords what are some of the costs they face, they will tell you the water bill, they will tell you Con Edison, they will tell you property taxes. Now, this mayor raised the water bill to the highest it's been in 13 years. I think that's wrong. I think it is the wrong way to raise money for the city to do it through the water bill. The second thing is that Con Edison can only raise your rates if they get permission from the state. This mayor told the state that he agreed with their proposal to raise rates by $65 a month. I know that because I was in those negotiations in opposition. So I will fight those rate increases to keep those costs lower for landlords as well. And the last thing I'll say, property taxes in this city are unfair. We all know that. This mayor knows that. When this mayor ran in 2021, he said he would fix those property taxes in 100 days. It has been 4 years. All he has done is defend those taxes in court and lose every time. We are going to actually make it an equitable system. And these are ways we'll keep some of these costs down so that we can not only implement a rent freeze, but also ensure that it's possible to sustain these buildings.
Well, in this country and this city, people are always go for the big name, like Cuomo family. At the same time, we do not see that, he has been resigned for such a horrible, big crime that he committed to the state. And how could he assure our city and especially our community that, name doesn't matter, and you could really serve the job for the minority, for the poor, for the immigrant like us? How could he assure, and how could he send this message across our community? Because this thing is not going, I think, from my opinion. So could you please assure us? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So the question is, how can we defeat someone who everyone knows? And how can we assure everyone that it can be done? I was grateful to have the question earlier, can we win? Because I hear many uncles and aunties in our community who support the campaign, but they think that Cuomo is inevitable, that Cuomo is going to win. Now let me tell you, Cuomo is a former governor. He is the son of a former governor. Everyone in New York City knows his name. But even with 100% name recognition, he cannot get 50% to support him in the first round. That means we have an opportunity. Tomorrow's poll will show that we are at 27% and that still 30% of New Yorkers don't know who we are, which is an opportunity. And the reason I am confident is thanks to the people in this room, thanks to New Yorkers. 20,000 donated to our campaign. We raised $8 million. We still have $4.5 million to put our commercials on television, on streaming, in your mailboxes. But the most important thing we have is this room. Because what Andrew Cuomo does not have are volunteers.
My name is Afreen. I'm a college student and I went to school in the Bronx. One thing I wanted to ask you is, as our former mayor, Eric Adams, he cut a lot of education budget from our system that affected deeply in our community, especially people of colors. And it has affected me in a way where I didn't have a lot of programs in my high school to do a lot of extracurriculars, so I had to seek outside opportunities to go into a better college. how do you think of transforming this inequality and then making it more available for people of color and students who are in need of those opportunities?
Thank you so much for this question. This is a great question. And the first thing is I'm going to stop cutting our education budget. Eric Adams, we would send him record funding from Albany, and then he would use that funding to cut the funding for these schools. That's unacceptable. Because what we need to do is fully fund our schools. We need to have smaller class sizes so that there are fewer students per teacher, so every teacher can afford to teach their class and every student can actually learn from their teacher. And what you also said is we need to ensure that we have programming for our children and our students beyond just the classroom. It is quite disappointing as we see the chai come in. It is quite disappointing to see that we have more school safety agents than social workers and guidance counselors combined. We need to ensure that every student has all the resources they need. And one other point I'm going to share with you. In a $115 billion budget, we have to see how Eric Adams spent every dollar. Because when you look at the spending in our Department of Education, when you look at the spending, which is the department that spends the most money in our city government, so much of that spending is going to consultants, to contractors. It's not going to our students. It's not going to our teachers. We need to ensure that every dollar we put into our education system is a dollar that those teachers and students actually feel as investment. So thank you. Thank you for your question. Thank you for your work. And just to say that this is a mayor who hasn't just cut school funding for our students, he has also sent in police to brutalize our students. And we are going to stand up for our students to make sure they can learn and to also make sure that they can exercise their First Amendment rights, because that's their right as an American, and we deserve a mayor who understands that.
Yeah.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mahira. I'm 16 years old, coming from Manhattan. And my question for you is, what is your plan to make New York a safer place for everybody?
Thank you so much for your question.
Specifically, like 125th, 116.
Yeah.
Where there's lots of drugs like accessible to everybody, and homelessness.
Thank you. So I want to say that the question is, how will we make New York safer? How will we address the crisis of drugs and homelessness? I also want to say one more thing, Mahira, to your question. Is I know as Muslims, there's also a lot of fear in our community around hate violence. You know, my auntie Zara Fui, after 9/11, she wore a hijab. She had been wearing one, and she felt like she couldn't go anywhere in New York City anymore. She couldn't walk on the streets. She couldn't take the subway. She was a doctor. She didn't know how she would get to work. And I know that so many of our aunties and our sisters, our brothers and our uncles are feeling this fear today. And we can see that as hate crimes against Muslims continue to rise. And part of the reason that they rise is that for too long we haven't had enough leaders recognize the humanity in Muslim New Yorkers and in every New Yorker. We don't want special treatment. We don't want preferential treatment. We don't want anything like superiority. We just want equality. And equality is something that every New Yorker deserves. And so there are a few things I want to tell you. The first is we have put forward a proposal to create a Department of Community Safety. This is a department that will tackle 5 key areas: the mental health crisis, homelessness, gun violence, hate crimes, and victim services. When it comes to hate crimes, we are going to increase funding for anti-hate crime programs by 800% to finally protect each and every New Yorker, no matter their faith, no matter their background. The second piece, homelessness. The most effective policy against homelessness is keeping people in their homes. Now, it may sound simple, but let me tell you, when the median rent goes up $100, homelessness rises 9%. If we can keep the rent down, we can keep homelessness down. The last point is, we need to build actually affordable housing. Actually affordable housing. Because right now we are building housing that many people cannot afford. There is room for all kinds of housing. But especially if we want to combat homelessness, we have to build housing for New Yorkers who make $70,000 for a family of 4. Housing for the 100,000 New Yorkers who are living in shelters, who have vouchers, but they can't find a landlord to accept it. Housing for the 4,200 New Yorkers who are sleeping in our parks, on our streets, in our subway platforms. These are some of the ways that we can not only keep everyone safe, but keep everyone housed, and also make sure that we have a city that we don't only afford to live in, but we feel proud of living in. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We are in a city of 8.5 million people. Alhamdulillah, 1 million are Muslim. 200,000 of us are registered as Democrats. In the last election, do you know how many of us voted? 7%. I will not blame anyone in our community because often it feels like there is not much to vote for. But we have this opportunity in just 29 days. And so I ask you to tell everyone in your life the election is coming and that they have to vote by June 24th. So please, we cannot win this election without you. You are the ones who will win this election. And I thank you so much for coming this evening and joining this campaign.